Obama's two certainties about Osama bin Laden. He is dead. We will not release the pictures.
It is important for us to make sure that very graphic photos of somebody who was shot in the head are not floating around.
A ship carrying 800 people rescued from Misrata arrives in Benghazi. Welcome to BBC World News. I'm David Eads. Also coming up in this programme, workers enter Fukushima nuclear plant for the first time since early March. And the last soldier known to have served in the First World War has died. Claude Jules was 110. Hello, they say seeing is believing, but President Obama has made it quite clear the US will not release pictures of Osama bin Laden to prove he was killed. Mr. Obama said the al-Qaeda leader's death had been well established, but that the graphic pictures could be an incitement to additional violence. The American president will visit Ground Zero in New York later, the scene of bin Laden's greatest atrocity of 9/11. The visit is described by officials not as a victory tour, but a homage to the victims. From New York, Laura Trevelyan.
Heightened security at Ground Zero, guarding against a possible attack by bin Laden's followers. By coming here, President Obama will mark the death of the man who orchestrated 9/11 and pay his respects to those killed here. The president will meet relatives of the dead, including the father of fallen firefighter Jonathan Ielpi.
This thing that happened the other day where we killed bin Laden, it's justice, and we demand justice in our society. But we should not be too overjoyed with it.
When President Obama comes here to Ground Zero, he'll lay a wreath in memory of those killed on 9/11. Now that the inspiration behind those attacks, Osama bin Laden, has himself been killed by US forces, the president's approval ratings have risen as Americans reward him for that decisive action.
After the White House suggested it would release pictures of bin Laden to prove he's dead, now the president says that's not necessary.
There is no doubt that we killed Osama bin Laden. It is important for us to make sure that very graphic photos of somebody who was shot in the head are not floating around as an incitement to additional violence, as a propaganda tool. That's not who we are.
From bin Laden's compound in Pakistan, the Americans have retrieved what could be a treasure trove of intelligence about al-Qaeda: computers, cell phones and memory sticks. Laura Trevelyan, BBC News, New York.
Well, that's certainly what the American officials believe they've got, a whole wealth of new information which is now being analysed by intelligence experts. Bin Laden was found also to have a list of phone numbers sewn into his clothing. Well, Pakistan has responded angrily to suggestions by American officials that it simply couldn't be trusted in advance with details of the operation. Our correspondent, Ola Girin, sent this report from Abbottabad.
Scrutiny from the skies. A Pakistan Army helicopter circles bin Laden's compound. On the ground, troops control access. The military is tight-lipped about how the world's most wanted was living on its doorstep. Bin Laden's compound is a shell now. The police and army have been searching here, but the key evidence was taken by the Americans. Sources say that inside they recovered 10 cell phones, 10 computers and a possible treasure trove of information on 100 memory sticks. Bin Laden's clothing is being examined. Reports from the US say €500 and 2 phone numbers were sewn into the fabric. Outside the compound, local boys hunt for souvenirs from the American helicopter that came down here.
A fuller picture is emerging about the lives of those inside the compound. The women were seldom seen. When they ventured out, they were transported in a van, but the men were on the move. The two key figures, believed to be bin Laden's trusted couriers, were in and out, Local people have told us they saw them in the neighbourhood regularly.
There were two brothers, one was very young and one was old. They usually go for prayer near to this near mosque, this one mosque. Not a single neighbor was suspicious about this home, that who is living, what type of people are coming, and they don't have any interest because they are normal people.
Tradesman Mohammed Niaz told us the brothers often called him to the compound. It seems that, unwittingly, he was bin Laden's plumber. If there was any problem, they'd ask me to come and fix it, he said, and they'd pay me for my work. There was nothing strange going on in there. But the many questions raised by all this followed Pakistan's Prime Minister to France, where he's cut short a visit. He says other nations share the blame.
Certainly, we have intelligence sharing with the rest of the world, including United States. So, if somebody points out that there is some of the lapses from Pakistan side, that means it's the lapses from the whole world.
The fact that Osama bin Laden lived here in this valley in peace and comfort is hard to explain away. In London and Washington there are heightened fears that Pakistan can't be trusted. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Abbottabad.